Slope is defined as the rate of change of a line. To figure out the slope, we need to find the ratio of the vertical change to the horizontal change. The variable we use for slope is m, and since it's a ratio, it's going to be a fraction. In our numerator, our vertical change is going to be our rise, and our horizontal rate is going to be our run. So to figure out slope, we need to find how much our rise changes versus how much our run changes. How much we've changed vertically to how much we've changed horizontally. Another way to think of rise is our change in y. This symbol right here means change. It's the delta symbol in the Greek alphabet. So delta y over delta x is the change in y over the change in x. To figure out change in a coordinate system, we're going to subtract. We're going to find the difference. So to find the slope between 2 points, we're going to find the difference, the change in our y's over the change in our x's. Let's talk about some different lines. All of these lines are coplanar lines. They're in the same plane. So two coplanar lines are parallel if those two lines don't intersect. To prove that two lines are parallel, we need to show that they have equal slopes. Two coplanar lines are perpendicular if those two lines intersect to form a right angle. To prove that two lines are perpendicular, one of the lines has to be negative, have a negative rate of change, a negative slope, and the other one has to have a positive rate of change, a positive slope. So those two slopes have to be opposite. One's positive, one's negative, and the slopes are going to be reciprocals. So in order to prove two lines are perpendicular, the slopes need to be opposite reciprocals. And the last kind of coplanar lines are oblique lines. Two lines in the same plane that intersect, but they don't intersect to form a right angle. Oblique lines are neither parallel nor perpendicular. They are just intersecting lines. Their slopes are not equal, and they're not opposite reciprocals. Let's look at an example that involves slope and lines. How are the following lines related to each other? Line 1 passes through -5, 9 and 0, 5. Let's plot these 2 points. And 0, 5. And line 2 passes through -2, -5 and 6, 5. Let's plot these 2 points. Well, if I just look at the line segments, these two line segments don't even intersect. But I'm talking about the line that passes through these points. So when I connect these 2 points, I'm going to extend that line longer. I'm going to extend that line all the way across my graph. I'm going to call that line, line 1. I'm going to use an italics L with a subscript 1. Line 2 is going to pass through these 2 points. So I'm going to connect these 2 points, and I'm going to extend that line past those 2 points. I'm going to call that L2, line 2. Now it looks like these 2 lines are perpendicular, so I need to justify my answer. To justify my answer, I'm going to find the slope of line 1, m subscript 1. And the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm in coordinate geometry, so I'm going to use the slope formula. I'm going to use formulas to justify my answer. So on line 1, I have x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'm going to plug in y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Five minus 9 is negative 4 over 0 minus negative 5 is positive 5. So the slope of line 1 is going to be a negative divided by a positive, which gives me a negative answer. 4 divided by 5 simplifies down to 4/5. So the slope of line 1 is negative 4/5. The slope of line 2 I'm going to call m subscript 2. In order to find the slope of line 2, I'm going to use the slope formula. I'm in coordinate geometry, which tells me I need to use formulas. And I'm going to plug in the values on line 2. Here's x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'm going to have 5 minus negative 5 over 6 minus negative 2. Now I need to do that math. 5 minus negative 5 is positive 10. 6 minus negative 2 is 8. But in order to compare slopes, I always want to write my answer, my slope, as a fraction in lowest terms. 10/8 is not in lowest terms. 10 can be divided by 2, and 8 can be divided by 2. Always write your slope as a fraction in lowest terms. That means I have an integer on the top and an integer on the bottom, and there are no common divisors between the two. So my conclusion. Well, it looks like line 1 and line 2 are perpendicular. To justify my answer, I need to show my work and find the slope of each line, and then come to my conclusion. These slopes are opposite. One is negative and one is positive, and they're reciprocals. The reciprocal of 4/5 is 5/4. So line 1 is perpendicular. The symbol for perpendicular looks like an upside down T. Line 2. Since their slopes are opposite and reciprocals. So in order to justify my answer, I need 3 steps. Step 1, find the slope of my first line. Step 2, find the slope of my second line. And step 3, come to my conclusion. They're perpendicular since their slopes are opposite reciprocals.